Hello, Lito. I have to greet those in subtle body as well as those in gross body here today. All right. Well, it's 5 o'clock, so we'll begin today. We're on page 895 in a chapter called The Master's Training of His Disciples. Ramakrishna is speaking, actually, to a doctor who's in the room with him. I don't know which doctor it is. There's several devotees around at the moment. But he's been having this conversation going on for quite some time. And he's telling the doctor, he says, when a man develops pure sattva, he thinks only of God. He does not enjoy anything else. Now, for those who may not know, there's basically three, I don't know what to call them, quasi-elements that create this universe, and actually I don't know really exactly how to describe them, but there's tamas, which is inertia, the tendency to come to a zero. There's rajas, which is active, constantly needing to move and be engaged and do. And then there's sattva, which is really a balance, a perfect balance between tamas and rajas. And so I always tell people, if you're struggling with depression or laziness, the solution is action. So get up and write a card to your friend, or go out and give a sandwich to someone who needs it, or call somebody and tell them you love them. So if you feel that inertia, anything that's bringing you down, bringing you into negativity, kind of just fatiguing, making you unable to get motivated or engaged, then rajas, any kind of activity, will help you get out of that. And then the best is to be well balanced between the two. And if you look at the three major yogas really, you'll see that they're kind of around that ideal. That those people who are very contemplative and more quiet, that could be considered sattvic if it's healthy, but those would be more inclined to the meditation practices, and those who are more active for the karma yoga, right, in that way. And so he says, some are born with pure sattva as a result of their prarabdha karma, right? So they've got a good bank of savings from their previous lives, their previous experiences. And you develop that sattva, that very calm, even-headed nature. You're not easily disturbed. You're just not, you're working through inspiration and not through hunger, really, in sattva. You're not trying to get results. You're not trying to go somewhere to achieve something. You're doing something because you love to do it. And you just, and it's not particular. You just, whatever you're doing, you're able to completely focus on it, and you love it because it's worship for you. It's companionship with the presence, as you act. Very much like Brother Lawrence, if you've ever read that book. A very sattvic person there. Through unselfish action, one finally acquires pure sattva. Sattva mixed with rajas diverts the mind to various objects. From it springs the conceit of doing good to the world. To do good to the world is extremely difficult for such an insignificant creature as a man. But there is no harm in doing good to others in an unselfish spirit. Right? And this is always the case. It's like you really don't want a motive that's based on a result. Right? That's egoism. No matter how you cut it. Sometimes it's not harmful to others. It's always good to be caring and loving like that. But if you're being caring and loving because you want to be known as a caring and loving person, that's not good for you. It might be good for those you're serving, but it's not even really good in the long run for them, because if they don't have the proper gratitude or the proper attitude, or they don't think you're a kind and loving person, that disturbs your service, right? It poisons your relationship with them. And so to have this unselfish service, this unselfish ideal, again, it's not to work from the idea of accomplishing something, but you work from inside out. You're inspired by the love that is within you, that image of God, the image of the divine expresses. And the quieter your mind is, the quieter your narrative of egoism is, the more you are inspired by that inner self. This is called unselfish action. It is highly beneficial for a person to try to perform such action, but by no means all succeed, for it is very difficult. Everyone must work. Only one or two can renounce action. Rarely do you find a man who has developed pure sattva. Through disinterested action, sattva mixed with raja gradually turns into pure sattva. All right? And pure, usually when they say the word pure in the scriptures, I've started to interpret that as no me or mine involved. Right? No me or mine. So there's no motive of self in it. And that's almost universal in the scriptures, actually. If you just think of it in that way, it becomes very clear what they're trying to say to you. No sooner does a man develop pure sattva than he realizes God through his grace. Ordinary people cannot understand pure sattva. Hem once said to me, "Well, priest, the goal of a man's life is to acquire name and fame in the world. Isn't that true?" Right? In this world, to think of anything that doesn't have a motive is highly unlikely. You know, as a matter of fact, when you get something free, you're like, what's the catch? You know, what's the cost to this? And especially today, because so many things are disguised as free, you know, but they're taking your information and selling it, or they're taking your attention, or they're putting the awareness of their product in your mind, or all those different things. In this world, we're accustomed to an exchange for everything. And it's very rare to find someone who doesn't work in that ideal. And for ourselves, it's very difficult. We talk in terms of they don't deserve that, right? When we're starting to feel like we're giving more than we're getting in that sense. So this is the common thing. And actually, this is one of the major points of practice for the bhakta, or the practitioner of devotion in particular. Because the realization that you have to have to be able to act in this way is to come into a close and deep understanding of that unconditioned love of the divine. We have nothing in this world that would tell us of an unconditioned love. You know, a love that doesn't demand anything from you. And really, we're terrified to accept such a love, because we're always looking for the catch, you know. So when, like, the Christ comes and says, "I forgive you of everything. I'm the very essence of mercy of the divine. You know, I'm here to save you purely by grace." Inside there's a terror. It's like, even if I cuss, you know, we're always sure that there's a requirement, that there's a condition. And what happens is we get caught in kind of an in-between space, and that's the danger. That's the reason we're afraid. Is because you think that if I get a license like that you're going to love me no matter what I do, that I'm going to start doing all kinds of crazy things, right? And that's what's going to get me in trouble. That's if it's not well digested, right? That's if you don't understand unconditioned love, right? Because in unconditioned love, I always think of, if you have the perfect partner, you know, who always supports you and always loves you and always encourages you and believes in you all the time and is always looking out for you, what happens to you? You fall deeply in love with a person like that. You want to start giving back to them. You know, you want it. You respond out of a love for them. You don't go and try and get away with things. No, I can get away with it. He loves me. Right? That's contrary to even our nature. So in a sense, this is what we're trying to do in our practice. We're trying to have a faith, and that's really why the faith is called the root of everything. A faith in what? We say a faith in God. Well, what is God? God is that unconditioned love, a love with no requirement. And so it's surrendering to that idea and giving yourself permission to accept it. Right? It's a very difficult thing. The phrase I always use for myself when I'm thinking about it is that to accept an unconditioned love, to accept grace, an infinite grace, you have to have an infinite humility. You have to understand that there's nothing you have to contribute. There's nothing you have that's necessary to give. And so it's a state of complete openness and complete surrender to the divine. A surrender not giving up what you want, a surrender to the understanding that there is nothing demanded of you, right? That this is yours by love alone. And so that's where the sages find, well, who knows where all of them find it, but definitely touching that divine love, touching that understanding. Tuesday, October 27th, 1885, Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room. Narendra and other devotees were with him. The master was conversing with them. It was about, 10 o'clock in the morning. Narendra: how strangely the doctor behaved yesterday. A devotee: yes, the fish swallowed the hook, but the line broke. The master smiling: but the hook is in its stomach. It will die and float on the water. Right? That's a positive. A positive thing, meaning the guy's not going to get away. All right? Like what Ramakrishna says, that the for those who have come here, the cobra has bitten them. It's only a matter of time before the ego dies and they find their freedom. In that sense, he's talking here. Narendra went out for a few minutes, and Sri Ramakrishna was talking to M about Purna. Master: the devotee looking on himself as Prakriti likes to embrace and kiss God, whom he regards as the Purusha. I am telling this just to you. Ordinary people should not hear these things. M: God sports in various ways. Even this illness of yours is one of his sports. Because you are ill, new devotees are coming to you. The master smiling: Bhupati says, what would people have thought of you if you had just rented a house to live in without being ill? Well, what has happened to the doctor? M: as regards God, he accepts for himself the attitude of a servant. He says, you are the master and I am your servant. But then he asks me, why do you apply the idea of God to a man? Master: just see, are you going to him today? M: I shall see him if it is necessary to report your condition. Master: how do you find this boy Bankim? He cannot come here. You may give him instruction. That will awaken his spiritual consciousness. Narendra entered the room and sat near Ramakrishna. Since the death of his father, he had been very much worried about the family's financial condition. He now had to support his mother and brothers, and besides, he was preparing himself for his law examination. Lately, he had served as a teacher in the Vidyasagar school at Beaubazar. He wanted to make some arrangements for his family and thus get rid of all of his worries. Sri Ramakrishna knew all this. He looked affectionately at Narendra. Master to M: well, I said to Keshab, one should be satisfied with what comes unsought. The son of an aristocrat does not worry about his food and drink. He gets his monthly allowance. Narendra too belongs to a high plane. Then why should he be in such straitened circumstances? God certainly provides everything for a man who totally surrenders himself to him. Right? This is that idea. The highest renunciation is to find the moment perfect, always. To never be trying to change the moment, trying to change the moment to meet the conditions of the body or to meet the conditions of the mind should alarm you to some extent, not in a bad way, but in a way to make you aware how body identified you are or mind identified you are. Right? This world is very rarely perfect for the body. Very rarely. Of course, Santa Barbara is a pretty good shot at it most of the time. But if it's not the weather, it'll be something else. You'll get pneumonia in the summer. So it's very rarely that in this world that the conditions of the moment are perfect for a body and equally so for the mind. And so how is it to find perfection? It's to understand through your practice that you're not this body. You're watching this body. That's why it has to tell you it's sick. You don't know it before it gives you that little tickle in the back of your throat or makes you cough in some way. And the mind also is always, you watch your thoughts, you see them, you become aware of them. And actually I read a study not too long ago in Psychology Today that the mind, they've demonstrated, makes a decision before you're aware of that decision. And so it was an article about free will and demonstrating that really we don't have free will, that the mind makes the choices before you become aware of them, which is quite a fascinating thing. But that's what Ramakrishna says too. The scriptures teach that you are not the doer, right? Because you're not a particular. You're a general. You're all things, right? Like the dream that you have at night. You're not just the character in that dream. You are the whole dream, even though in the dream you experience yourself as only the character. And that's why there's story. That's why there's narrative. If you were to know that you were everything, you would have all of the information available to you, and there would be no story, no narrative, no conflict. There would only be existence. There would only be knowledge and bliss, Satchit Ananda, which is what the scriptures say that you are. So he's saying here that we work for that we work for, what does he say, an aristocrat. You know, we're working through inspiration for the divine. And he has said everything is always fine. Yeah, the body might drop off. You might have to live under a bridge. But if you live under a bridge, you're still you. You're still the you that's sitting here. And so you have all of the abilities to find that inner peace regardless of where you are, an inner contentment regardless of conditions, regardless of circumstances. And so that's the exercise of finding the moment perfect. That's the perfect renunciation, right? Letting go of body, letting go of mind, and sitting on the flower and sucking its nectar, like Ramakrishna says, which means be within your own self, within the shrine of the heart, and enjoy the atmosphere of that temple, the original shrine of the beloved, in your own heart. And so you don't have to go to churches that have nice atmospheres or take pilgrimages to faraway places that have strong vibrations. You are that temple, right? You are the deity of that temple, actually. But until we know that, we are the servant in that temple. M. Narendra too will be provided for. It is not yet too late for him. Master. But a man who feels intense renunciation within doesn't calculate that way. He doesn't say to himself, I shall first make an arrangement for the family and then practice sadhana. No, he doesn't feel that way if he has developed intense dispassion. A Goswami, in the course of his preaching, said, if a man has 10,000 rupees, he can maintain himself on the income. Then, free from worries, he can pray to God. Right? Of course, he doesn't like that attitude, because what are you depending on in that scenario? You're depending on the rupees you've saved, your 10,000 rupees, right? It's like this is one of those very interesting things. You see, there's a place where but Vivekananda and his traveling companion, one of his brother disciples, they were at a train station and they were traveling and they were both hungry, and they were thinking, oh, what should we do for food? And Vivekananda says, the mother says she'll provide for us. Let's just sit and wait and see what comes. And sure enough, a man shows up at the train station with a full lunch for them. And Vivekananda asks, how did this come about? Why did you bring food to the train station? He said, I was taking a nap and I had a dream. And in the dream, the divine appeared to me and said, I have somebody who's hungry at the train station. Take some food for them. A divine inspiration like that. And we all think that's only for special people. Well, only special in the sense that people trust that the mother is there, that the divine is taking care and is providing for you. We think it's our job that gives us our money. We think it's our family that gives us our love. But who is it that gives you the job? And who is it that gives you the family? And so all things in this world are given to us by the divine through all many proxies, because we don't trust it without the job. If we don't get up and go to work, we truly don't believe we're going to get a paycheck. And it's that lack of faith, that lack of trust in that relationship with the divine. But it takes a lot of work, because you can't just stop working as a test. It's that you have to truly let go of your belief that it's your job that gives you money, that it's your space in life that gives you satisfaction. You really do have to come to that place of inner silence where you're just in the presence and you're not concerned whether food comes or not, whether the body gets fed or not, or whether the mind is in a good mood or not. So you have to come to that place, that pure dispassion, which was why he mentioned it here in this paragraph. Keshab said also something like that. He said to me, "Sir, suppose a man wants, first of all, to make a suitable arrangement of his property and his estate, and then think of God. Will it be all right for him to do so?" Right? Go out and become a billionaire. Then you can sit and meditate on God all the time. Right? Because obviously that's what the billionaires are doing. "Is there anything wrong about it?" I said to him, "When a man feels utter dispassion," right? That's the utter surrender, the lack of concern. What happens to the body is not my problem. I don't have a body. What happens to the mind is not my problem. I am not the mind. So to have that, and we get that through grace and practice, right? So when a man feels this utter dispassion, he looks on the world as a deep well and his relatives as venomous cobras. Then he cannot think of saving money or making arrangements about his property. God alone is real. Everything else is illusory. To think of the world instead of God. A woman was stricken with intense grief. She first tied her nose ring in the corner of her cloth and then dropped to the ground, saying, "Oh, friends, what a calamity has befallen me." But she was very careful not to break that nose ring, right? So that idea that, well, if I save up money and then I renounce the world, that's like, hiding your jewelry and saying you're renouncing the world. It's still that same dependence. You haven't broken that attachment to those things. Everyone laughs at these words. Narendra felt as if struck by an arrow and lay on the floor. M understood what was going through Narendra's mind and said with a smile, "What's the matter? Why are you lying down?" The master said to M with a smile, "You remind me of a woman who felt ashamed of herself for sleeping with her brother-in-law and couldn't understand the conduct of those women who lived as a mistress of strangers." All right, he's saying, M, you shouldn't be teasing him for this. You're in the same condition, right? So the woman who sleeps with her brother-in-law thinks that somehow she's better than someone who's a mistress to a stranger. It's like, that's the nature of egoism, right? Our troubles, we're always better than the others. There's always a reason that we're not quite as bad as someone else. By way of excusing herself, she said, "After all, a brother-in-law is one's own. But even that kills me with shame. And how do these women dare to live with strangers?" M himself had been leading a worldly life. Instead of being ashamed of his own conduct, he smiled at Narendra. That was why Ramakrishna referred to the woman who criticized the conduct of immoral women, though she herself had illicit love for her brother-in-law. A Vaishnava minstrel was singing downstairs. Sri Ramakrishna was pleased with his song and said that someone should give him a little money. A devotee went downstairs. The master asked, "How much did you give the singer?" When he was told that the devotee had given only 2 pice, like 2 cents, he said, "Just that much. This money is the fruit of his servitude. How much he had to flatter his master and suffer to earn it. I thought he would give at least 4 annas." The younger Naren had promised to show Sri Ramakrishna the nature of electricity with an instrument. The instrument was exhibited. It was about 2:00, and Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees were sitting in the room. Atul brought with him a friend who had a munsif. Yeah, boy, I can't see with glasses or without them. Bhagchi, the famous painter from Shikdarpara, arrived. He presented the master with several paintings. Sri Ramakrishna examined the pictures with great delight. Bhagchi had long hair like a woman's. Sri Ramakrishna said, "Many days ago a sannyasi came to Dakshineshwar who had hair 9 cubits long. He used to chant the name of Radha. He was genuine." A few minutes later, Narendra began to sing. The songs were full of the spirit of renunciation. He sang, "O Lord, must all my days pass by so utterly in vain? Down the path of hope I gaze with longing day and night." He sang again, "O Mother, you, my inner guide, ever awake within my heart. Day and night you hold me in your lap. Why do you show me such tenderness? Why do you show me such tenderness to this unworthy child of yours?" Then he sang, O gracious Lord, if like a bee my soul cannot embed itself deep in the lotus of your feet, what comfort can I find in life? What can I gain with wealth untold, neglecting you, supremest wealth? I take no pleasure in the sight of the most lovely infant's face. If all its loveliness reveals no trace of your dear features there, moonlight is meaningless to me as darkest night. If your love's moon rises not in my soul's firmament, the purest wife's unspotted love is stained if it is not set the priceless gem of love divine. O Lord, whenever doubt of you, born of base error and neglect, assails my mind, I writhe in pain, as from a serpent's poisonous fangs. What more, O Master, shall I say? You are my heart's most precious jewel, the home of everlasting joy. It was 5:30 in the afternoon when Dr. Sarkar came to the Master's room at Syampakor, felt his pulse, and prescribed the necessary medicine. Many devotees were present, including Narendra, Girish, Dr. Dukhari, the young Naren, Rakal, M. Sharat, and Shyam Basu. Dr. Sarkar talked a little bit about the Master's illness and watched him take the first dose of medicine. Then Sri Ramakrishna began to talk to Shyam Basu. Dr. Sarkar started to leave, saying, "Now that you are talking to Shyam Basu, I shall say goodbye to you." The Master and a devotee asked the doctor if he would like to hear some songs. Dr. Sarkar to the Master, "I should like it very much. But music makes you frisk about like a kid and cut all sorts of capers. You must suppress your emotion." Dr. Sarkar took his seat once more, and Narendra began to sing in his sweet voice to the accompaniment of the tanpura and the mridanga. This universe, wondrous and infinite, O Lord, is your handiwork, and the whole world is a treasure house full of your beauty and grace. He sang again, "In dense darkness, O Mother, your formless beauty sparkles. Therefore the yogis meditate in that dark mountain cave. In the lap of boundless dark, on Mahanirvana's waves upborne, peace flows serene and inexhaustible. Taking the form of the void, in the robe of darkness wrapped, who are you, Mother, seated alone in the shrine of Samadhi? From the lotus of your fear-scattering feet flash your love's lightnings. Your spirit face shines forth with laughter, terrible and loud." This wonderful ideal here, the universe, wondrous and infinite, O Lord, is your handiwork. You know, one of the tricks or techniques in spiritual life is to look through things at the divine behind it. You know, that when we look into each other's eyes, first, not to stop at the face, at just the person, not to stop behind the eyes at the personality, but to look through to the pure love, the pure wisdom that is that person before it shines through the lenses of ego, of body-mind. And so we look through the universe, you know. We don't stop at the sunset and say, "Oh, what a great sunset." We look through it and we learn about the divine behind it, the steadiness of it, the discipline of it, the regularity of it, the dependability of it, you know. And it's the same with the shrine. When you see an image on the shrine, not to stop at the picture, but to look through the picture to the divine essence behind it. Ramakrishna described himself as a hole through which God can be seen, right? And so these incarnations, Rama and Buddha and Jesus and Ramakrishna, when they describe themselves, they're not a thing, right? They're like when Jesus says, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." It's the same idea. Look through me. Don't see the body. Don't see the personality. Don't see the historical figure. See the eternal, ever-present principle of divine love, unmanifesting, opening, unfolding in front of you, in all of its actions, not as a narrative, but as a freedom in the moment, a freedom of flowing. I'm not being something. I'm simply being itself, right? And so we look through this world. We look through each other. We look through these incarnations, our divine beloveds. Look through to that one divine principle of freedom, of infinite love, that is just unfolding, manifesting itself with no motive, no story, no narrative except the one that your ego gives it, which is unreal. Just to let it be in the moment, unconditioned, absolutely free, infinite, without end, and personal for you. Dr. Sarkar said to M, "This song is dangerous for him." Sri Ramakrishna asked M what the doctor had said. M replied, "The doctor is afraid that the song may throw your mind into samadhi." In the meantime, the master had partially lost consciousness of the outer world. Looking at the physician, he said with folded hands, "No, no. Why should I go into samadhi? Hardly, I see it's got a broken character. Hardly had he spoken these words when he went into deep ecstasy. His body became motionless, his eyes fixed, his tongue speechless. He sat there like a statue cut in stone, completely unconscious of the outer world. Turned inward were his mind, his ego, and all the other organs of perception. He seemed an altogether different person. Narendra continued his songs, pouring his entire heart and soul into them. What matchless beauty! What a bewitching face I behold! The sovereign of my soul has entered my lowly hut. The springs of my love are welling forth from every side. Tell me, my beloved, O thou, the Lord of my heart, what treasure shall I lay before your lotus feet? Take my life, my soul. What more can I offer you? Take everything that is mine. Deign to accept my all." Narendra continued, "O gracious Lord, if, like a bee, my soul cannot embed itself deep in the lotus of your feet, what comfort can I find in life?" As the doctor heard these words, the purest wife's unspotted love, his eyes were filled with tears. He cried out, "Ah, me! Ah, me!" Narendra sang again, "Oh, when will dawn that blessed day, when love will waken in my heart? When will my tears flow uncontrolled as I repeat Lord Hari's name, and all my longing be fulfilled?" In the midst of the singing, Sri Ramakrishna had regained his consciousness of the outer world. When Narendra finished the song, the master continued his conversation, keeping them all spellbound. The devotees looked at his face in wonder. It did not show the slightest trace of the agonizing pain of his illness. The face shone with heavenly joy. Addressing the doctor, the master said, "Give up this false modesty. Why should you feel shy about singing the name of God? The proverb says very truly, one cannot realize God if one is the victim of shame, hatred, or fear. Give up such foolish notions as, I am such a great man. Shall I dance crying the name of God? What will other great men think of me on hearing of this? They may say that the doctor, poor fellow, has been dancing and uttering the name of Hari, and thus pity me. Give up all of these foolish notions." Doctor: "I never bother about what people say. I don't care a straw about their opinions." Master: "Yes, I know your strong feeling about that." Everyone laughs. "Go beyond knowledge and ignorance. Only then can you realize God. To know many things is ignorance, pride of scholarship, ignorance. The unwavering conviction that God alone dwells in all beings is knowledge, jnana. To know him intimately is vijnana, the richer knowledge. If a thorn gets into your foot, A second thorn is needed to take it out. When it is out, then both thorns are thrown away. You have to procure the thorn of knowledge to remove the thorn of ignorance. Then you must set aside both knowledge and ignorance. God is beyond both knowledge and ignorance. Once Lakshmana said to Rama, "Brother, how amazing it is that such a wise man as Vasishtha wept bitterly at the death of his sons." Rama said, "Brother, he who has knowledge must also have ignorance. He who has the knowledge of one must also have knowledge of many. He who is aware of light is also aware of darkness. Brahman is beyond knowledge and ignorance, virtue and vice, merit and demerit, cleanliness and uncleanliness." Sri Ramakrishna then recited the following song of Ram Prasad. "Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, that wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the four fruits of life. When you will learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you, only when you have found the way to keep your wives contentedly under a single roof will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shyama." Right? And really this is the fulfillment of that unconditioned love. Right? To sit there and lose concern for virtue and vice. And we think, oh, how can we do that? Because it is not a matter of virtue, it's a matter of being. Right? It's not a choice of doing good or not doing evil. That's not spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is not doing. It's the complete opening inside. It's the complete permission of your own mind to love without a condition yourself, by accepting the notion of this love inside and letting that love flow to you so that you can go in the shrine, and when you sit in the shrine, the first thought is of overwhelming love, not of the mistakes you've made that day or the way you treated that person in line or what good or bad things you may have done. But you sit down immediately free, immediately open, and just pour yourself into your ideal, letting go of everything and letting it just be irregardless of all things. You know, it is not God like Santa Claus keeping track of who's naughty and nice. You know, we've been taught that for so long. God does not keep a record of wrongs. We know that, right? And even in the Christian scriptures, love, keeps no record of right and wrong. So who does? It's you. It's your own mind that holds you accountable to your actions, right? It's your own ego that demands payment, that tells you that you're not enlightened, that you need to do more work, you need to be a better person, that you need to be more pure, that you have to practice harder, longer, as if it's the practice that's taking you to God, right? Holy Mother says there is no practice that can bring you to realization. Practice allows you to contain that realization, to hold on to it, to allow it to fill it, as I was taught when I took sannyas, that God will fill your hands with bliss. If you've been impure, you won't be able to hold your mind in that stillness, right? The mind will move, the holes will appear, and the bliss will run out, right? And you'll believe as an ego self, oh, God is leaving me. No, God's not leaving you. Your awareness of God is shaky. Your remembrance of the divine has holes in it. And that's what giving you the impression that the Lord has turned away or is not with you or is not looking at you. But God cannot leave you, simply cannot leave you. God is existence. For him to leave you, you cease to exist. And so sit there and know your existence. That's your guarantee, right? Can you think of love? Can you know love? Can you express it and feel it? God is that love, and he has given that ability to you by her presence, right? Wisdom. Can you learn from your mistakes? Can you see what's wrong and see a higher ideal? Then God is with you. God is your intelligence that allows you to see and to learn and to grow. And so when you feel those times that God has gone, or love has failed you, or that you're wicked, or that you've fallen, or that you're this or that, This is what he's talking about, letting go of both of them, because you can go the other way too. I'm a great devotee, right? And come bouncing in and sit down with a sense of entitlement, walk boldly up onto the dais here and toss your flower to the deity as your gift, right? It can go both ways, but to go there is to go in silence, in sacredness, a quiet without a thought one way or the other, a surrender, a looking through everything to see the beloved, to see the divine, and to find your confidence in that silence, that confidence in your freedom, confidence in your freedom of attribute and not any particular attribute. Shyam Basu, Sir, what remains after one throws away both thorns? Master, Nitya Shuddha Bodha Rupam, the eternal and ever pure consciousness. Right? That's what you are. That's what remains when you throw away the narrative of mind. That's what remains when you find that silence of self before mind, before thought, before body. How can I make it clear to you? Suppose a man who has never tasted ghee asks you, well, what does ghee taste like? Now, how can you explain that to him? At the most, you can say, what is ghee like? Well, it's just like ghee. A young girl asked her friend, well, friend, your husband is here. What sort of pleasure do you enjoy with him? The friend answered, my dear, you will know it for yourself when you get a husband. How can I explain it to you? Right? And this is that. What he's saying here is nobody can describe God. Nobody can tell you what you are. Least of all your mind. Least of all your mind. The only way that you can find out who you are is to let go of all thought. Let go of all distraction. Let go of all narrative. And sit in silence. And if you can capture that silence for even a split second, if you can accept it and rest in it, in that split second you will know what you are. And when the noise comes back and someone says, what did you see? You'll be like, because Ramakrishna, when he was standing there in that deep samadhi just a moment ago, where it's like a statue, his eyes fixed, no movement, he was seeing, he was experiencing. There's no words, you can't say that because he was in a space where there was no second, right? He was no longer the body in the room. He was, as soon as he had his realization, he ceased to be Ramakrishna, right? We look at a body and we say, oh, that's Ramakrishna. That's just because we have a body with a name, we assume he has a body with a name. But at the moment of his realization, he was never a body again, right? That body was driven by the universal nature that is common to all of us. But because it was so pure, meaning it had no me or mine in it for him, everybody could see it. Everybody would sit and wonder when he would be in that state, because that radiant joy, that perfect contentment, was trapped for a moment on that face. But he was everyone. He was everything in the room. He was no longer a body standing in front of us. That's why we're remembering him. That's why we remember a Buddha, a Rama, and a Krishna through thousands of years. Who else gets remembered for thousands of years? Only that one that makes an impression, that allows you to have a momentary experience of what you are, of what the potential of your freedom in this life is, to show you the very point of your life, of your existence. It is said in the Purana that Bhagavati, the Divine Mother, was once born as the daughter of the king Himalaya. After her birth, she showed her father her many forms. The Lord of the Mountains, after enjoying all of these visions, said to the Divine Mother, "May I have the vision of Brahman, as it is described in the Vedas?" Then the Divine Mother answered, "Father, if you want to have the vision of Brahman, you must live in the company of holy men." What Brahman is, right? What Brahman is, that's a code word. What you are is what he's saying. What Brahman is cannot be described in words. Somebody once said that everything in the world has been made impure, like food that has been touched by the tongue, and that Brahman alone remains undefiled. That means this: all scripture and holy books, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, the Bibles, the Qurans, all of these books may be said to have been defiled because their contents have been uttered by the tongues of men. But what Brahman is, no tongue has yet been able to describe. Therefore, Brahman is still undefiled. One cannot describe in words the joy of play and communion with Satchit Ananda. He alone knows who has realized it. Addressing Dr. Sarkar, Sri Ramakrishna continued, "Look here. One cannot attain knowledge unless one is free from egotism. There is a saying, 'When shall I be free? When I shall cease to be. I and mine, that is ignorance. You and yours, that is knowledge.' A true devotee says, 'O God, you alone are the doer. You alone do all things. I am a mere instrument. I do as you make me do. All these, wealth, possessions, nay, the universe itself, belong to you. This house and these relatives are yours alone and not mine. I am your servant. Mine is only the right to serve, serving you according to your bidding. Those who have read a few books cannot get rid of conceit. Once I had a talk with Kali Krishna Tagore about God. At once he said, 'Oh, I know all about that.' I said to him, 'Does a man who has visited Delhi brag about it? Does a gentleman go about telling everyone that he is a gentleman?' Shyam, but Kali Krishna Tagore has great respect for you. Master, oh, how vanity turns a person's head. There was a scavenger woman in the temple garden at Dakshineshwar, and her pride, and all because of a few ornaments. One day a few men were passing her on the path, and she shouted to them, 'Hey, get out of the way, you people!' If a scavenger woman can talk that way, what can one say about the vanity of others?" All right, we'll stop there for today. Anybody have any questions or concerns about anything? Well, then let's take an opportunity and give some announcements. October 26th, Sunday, the lecture at 11 a.m. in the temple. This is tomorrow, Divine Immersion by Swami Mahayogananda. On the 29th, Wednesday at 5, God Lived with Them, read by Swami, or we're doing by Swami Vijnanananda, and the book's written by Swami Chaitanananda. November 1st, Saturday at 5 p.m., we'll be doing this again. And on the November 2nd, Sunday at 11 a.m., In the Image of God, Swami Chidbrahmananda will be giving that lecture by the grace of God. All right. Take some time to open to these things. Be free and go forward.